Hey folks, this is Abel James, and welcome to the Fat Burning Man Show, where we talk about real food and real results. Man, it's been one heck of a week. Made the rounds on a bunch of different podcasts and have another one coming up on Monday, so be sure to check out my buddy Ben Greenfield Fitness, where I talk about my book, The Musical Brain. Also made an appearance on the Dr. Lowe radio show, and she just happens to be my special guest today as well. And then I'm going to be coming up on the Jimmy Moore Livin' La Vida Low Carb show in just a few days as well. I also have some pretty exciting news. The Fat Burning Man Show, as of the time of this recording, is #1 in all of health in Canada, which is awesome news. So Dean Dwyer is probably up there pressing the play button over and over again. So thanks, Dean. But seriously, you folks up in Canada, you rock. Thank you so much for listening. And in addition to that, my book Intro to Paleo is #1 on the bestseller charts on Amazon and Natural Foods, right above Mark Sisson. So thanks so much for your support there. It's been totally awesome. So in celebration of all this fun stuff, I'm opening spots in my online coaching program for podcast listeners, and you get 30 days for just $1. So you can hop on over to Lean Body Community to check that out. There's still a few spots left. Or you can go to fatburningman.com and check out the show notes there. And if you already signed up, the next webinar is going to be up real soon, so be sure to send in your questions to me. All right, got a really fun show with you today with Dr. Lauren Noel, a naturopathic doctor and host of the very popular Dr. Lowe radio show. So instead of blasting you with prescriptions, Dr. Lowe's approach is to use food as medicine to treat the root of the problem, not the symptoms. Dr. Lowe, we need more doctors like you. And to those of you on the West Coast, I encourage you to stop by her practice and you'll be pooping like a rock star in no time. All right, so in today's show, we talk about how you can use food as medicine, how working the graveyard shift is a known carcinogen, the importance of a raw food diet for dogs, how to have a rockstar poop, why doctors smoke, and tons more. All right, let's go hang out with Dr. Lowe. All right, today we're here with an expert in naturopathic medicine, the host of the very popular and awesomely named Dr. Lowe radio show, and a fellow dog lover, Dr. Lauren Noel. What's cooking on the West Coast, Doc?
You know, just living the dream, having a blast, just sitting here in my office in beautiful Encinitas and just walking distance from the beach, and I'm just blessed. I just love my life.
That's awesome.
What's up with you?
Life is good, except I'm choking on stuffy air too. I had to turn my air conditioning off as well. For you out there, I just made her turn off her air conditioning, so we're both probably going to be choking by the end of the interview. But
yeah, I'll start sweating bullets. I'll let you know if I have to break down.
No problem. So why don't we start with your personal story and how you got into natural health? I hear you were a strange child telling your dad not to drink soda and eating blueberries on Halloween.
Yeah. I've always been kind of a peculiar child. I was the one who would eat blueberries instead of candy, and I would get up at 5 a.m. in like 5th grade and do step aerobics to Denise Austin, and I was just weird, like kids don't do that. My parents were worried. They're like, I think our daughter has an eating disorder, because I would, we'd be sitting there ordering food at a restaurant. I'd say, what's in the dressing and what is this and what's that? Like, what kid does that, You
were born for this.
But I've just always been really interested in nutrition, and I don't know if it was just something I just innately knew or just developed, but I love learning about what feeds the body and what makes me feel really good. And so, and also too, really the biggest thing, Abel, is that I'm a kind of a know-it-all. And so I always would tell other kids what they should do and tell my family what they should do. But now I get paid to do that. So it's a perfect job for me.
That is perfect. So things weren't always, the advice that you were following wasn't always correct when you were growing up, right? So tell us a little bit about that. I had a similar experience.
Yeah, I was a pretty healthy kid. I was a pretty constipated child. I had all kinds of digestive stuff, and I had, once I hit high school, I had strep throat really frequently. I had pretty bad acne. Most people say, oh, I don't remember it being that bad, but I would cover it with makeup. It was pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And, menstrual problems and depression. I remember sitting on my counter in my bathroom, just picking my zits for like 2 hours. I was just like obsessive. It was just crazy. And I remember going to a dermatologist in high school and getting on Accutane. I had to do 2 rounds of Accutane, which is a really intense acne medication that basically just dries out all your glands, so you can't produce any oil. And of course, it's been recalled now because it's, causes inflammatory bowel disease and depression and suicide in some people. So it's like, okay, do you want to break out, or do you want to, have that risk later? It's
Right.
just crazy. So, but that was sort of the medical system that I was in when I was younger. I was a Kaiser patient, and just, never really had any great medical advice from my doctors. Of course, the visits were 10 minutes, and I didn't really have a whole lot of time to say what was going on in my life. And I remember asking my doctor, what can I eat to make my skin better? What should I avoid? And I remember this. They said there is absolutely no connection with what you eat and how your skin looks. And I said, well, what can I do to not feel so obsessed to pick my face like this? It's just like, I was obsessive about it. And they said, well, once you do this medication, you won't have anything to pick.
Wow.
It's like, okay, what about getting to the root cause? What about figuring out nutrition-wise what's best for me? What about helping to balance my brain chemistry so that I'm not so crazy obsessed and inclined to just attack myself like that, So
Right.
that's the way it was in high school for me. And, it wasn't, and I became a vegetarian for a little while. I thought that was the way to go. And certainly I think eating a lot more plants in your diet is great, but I kind of missed the whole picture with that, and, changed that later on. But, that was how it was for me when I was younger. It certainly wasn't really healthy advice given. And of course, antibiotics. I mean, God, I took them probably like vitamins growing up.
Wow.
It's like you get a strep throat, you get antibiotics. It was like the Windex. Put Windex on it. It's always antibiotics for whatever you dealt with. And probably at least 30, 40, 50 times I had been on antibiotics.
Wow.
So, and I ask that to my patients always, like, how many times have you been on antibiotics? Because it makes a really big difference in their gut flora. We can kind of get into that later, but yeah, it was a lot different from how it is now, for sure.
So, let's talk a little bit about naturopathic medicine. For those people who might not be familiar with what it is, why don't you explain your approach and why you think it might be a better approach than what conventional medicine is up to these days?
Yeah, naturopathic medicine is, if I could design a career, if I could design something to do, it would be exactly what it is. Like I feel so blessed to be able to have this career because I believe in it 100%. Naturopathic medicine it's a science, but it's also an art.
Yeah.
It's a in that we're trained in all the basic, ologies like biology, pharmacology, gynecology, oncology, whatever. We take all those basic courses, but then we also learn a lot about herbal medicine, homeopathy, even spinal manipulation. Like we're trained to do, similar to like chiropractic techniques, hydrotherapy, nutrition. We take a lot of nutrition training, which, conventional medicine wise, I think typical medical doctors take maybe one course in nutrition if they're lucky.
Right.
So, I mean, for us, it's like 5 semesters. So we get a really great base. And it just, to me, kind of makes sense. It's like the fuel for the human body. We should probably know about nutrition. So, it's an art and it's a science, and it's very, very customized to each individual patient. So I have 2 patients come through the door with the exact same symptoms, and they're going to leave with 2 very, very different treatment plans because they're very different from each other.
Yeah.
And then also too, the great thing, and I feel so blessed to be able to have this, is freedom in my schedule to be able to spend an hour with patients. I feel bad for medical doctors sometimes because they only have like 7 minutes to sit down with their patient and talk to them because they have the next patient ready to go, and with the whole insurance model, like they just have to, bring them out really, really quickly because otherwise they won't get paid, fairly from the insurance companies. So, I fortunately can sit down with the patient for an hour and really get to know them, and sometimes
very cool.
15 minutes of the visit, I'll uncover something totally, that changes the whole course of our treatment. So,
right.
but really, naturopathic medicine, there's a few tenets that we really keep in mind. And I'll kind of go through them. So first off is that you identify the root cause. That's really the biggest difference, I would say, is that we really want to know what's happening at a causal level. So why do you have a headache? Why do you have fatigue? Why do you have insomnia? Have this rash? So rather than me give you a medication to rub on your skin or me give you some pain medicine, let's do some further digging and see what it is that is happening at the root cause. Because when you address that, the body heals. The body wants to be healthy. It has an innate wisdom to be healthy. When you get out of its way and support the healing process, it just gets better. And so chronic conditions are reversed, and things that just haven't been able to, fix themselves all of a sudden are better. So, really getting to the root cause. Again, treating the whole person. So I don't see a patient as a set of symptoms. They're not coming in like you have this diagnosis, or you're not a cancer patient, or you're not a fibromyalgia patient. You're a patient who has fibromyalgia, but you also have, body, mind, and soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I see you as that. And so it's really, really treating the whole person and keeping all of that in mind. And really the healing power of nature is another tenet of naturopathic medicine, is that I really believe that everything that we deal with physically, emotionally, spiritually, there's something in nature that can help to remedy that. I think there's probably thousands of different remedies we haven't found because we have only a tiny bit of knowledge of what is in the world that we can use, on the planet that we can use. But plants are incredibly powerful. Yeah. And one of my radio shows I did weeks ago was interviewing Stephen Harold Buhner, who wrote the book Herbal Antibiotics, specifically for drug-resistant bacteria. So there's actually plants that are incredibly effective at fighting drug-resistant bacteria that have mutated to where they become resistant to antibiotics.
That's amazing.
Because resistant to plants. Plants have been dealing with fighting bacteria for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And they can't form that resistance. And also, using herbal medicine can help to eradicate whatever bacteria it is, but it also keeps the good flora intact.
Yes.
As opposed to an antibiotic. So, using whatever tools we can, it's really exciting. And then also too, my favorite part of naturopathic medicine is, it's in Latin, it's called docere, which is for doctor. Mm-hmm. And docere means doctor as teacher. So I really believe that the more that I explain it to my patient, really help them understand what's happening at the root cause, the more on board they are. They're ready. I mean, people are incredibly smart. I don't want them to put me on a pedestal and think that they don't know as much as me, because people know a lot about their bodies. They know when something isn't right.
Yeah.
So I explain things in really great detail to make sure they really get it. And I want them to be able to explain it to somebody else. So that's what naturopathic medicine is. It's, we go to 4 to 5 year medical school training after getting our bachelor's degree. And then we sit for 3 days of board exams, and, we take exams, and also continuing education to really stay, with the current research. So we use current cutting edge therapies, and also thousands old ancient wisdom, Eastern, Western medicine, and kind of put it together to make it a nice, comprehensive and individualized treatment for people.
Very cool. And I love that holistic approach. But let's do a little case study. So say you were in high school and you come to visit you now with acne problems. So what happens differently?
Oh my gosh, so much. Well, I don't wish I could do it, because obviously my story helps to help people, because I can empathize and really get what they're going through. But if I were to zoom back and rewind time, I would first I'd sit there and actually spend some time with myself and listen. I would do lab testing and see if there's any like anemia. I look at her liver function, her cholesterol, her nutrient status. So every patient, I'm always testing for vitamin and mineral deficiencies, because a lot of times we eat really great diets, but we're not absorbing them. So we have a lot of different deficiencies. And certainly with skin health, which was my main thing, vitamin C and zinc in particular are really important for healthy skin. So I would want to check that. I would probably do a stool test, because so much of skin health is reflected in the gut flora. Mm-hmm. And I probably had some going on back then. I mean, as constipated as I was, and no shame in saying it, my favorite thing to talk about with patients is poop. I love going in, important, And I would have also done some neurotransmitter testing too. I think I probably had some imbalanced neurochemistry, and that's why I had these obsessiveness, patterns that I couldn't really shake, and helped to balance that out. And removing food sensitivities, which I know now I have a dairy sensitivity and a gluten sensitivity. I would have taken those out of my diet, used, high fatty acids like fish oil. I would have worked on healing the gut, optimizing my gut function and flora, and just balanced brain chemistry. And I guarantee you, I would have probably dropped the weight. I was 30 pounds heavier then, by the way. I would have dropped the weight. I would have probably incredibly clear skin. I would have felt really good. I would have had energy, not depressed. Because I was very depressed then. I wouldn't have any depression. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been a lot smoother ride in high school. I'm sure of that.
That sounds a lot better than Accutane.
Yeah, I think so.
That's crazy. So you said it was your favorite subject to talk about, gut health and how to have a rock star poop, I think as you put it.
Yeah. Well, first off, the I guess the environment in which you eat is really important. So I think the root of most diseases, of course, starts in the gut, but beyond that is stress. We are
Yeah.
so incredibly stressed nowadays. Living in the 21st century, we are go, go, go. We rush right in the morning, we rush all day long, and we get home and we're tired and we're not taking care of ourselves. And the stress level is just, it's crazy. And I think that from a digestive standpoint, I mean, if your stress hormones are flaring, your body isn't going to care about digesting your food.
Hmm.
That's first off, is really looking at the environment in which you eat. Do you stand up while you eat? Do you eat while you're driving in a car? Do you skip meals? Are you frantic all day long and not really, taking the time and energy to sit down and eat a balanced meal? So that's first off. So that's something I always talk about with patients. And and if so, really pay some attention to getting those things really balanced in your life. Schedule time, remind yourself to have balanced meals throughout the day and chew your food. I mean, something as simple as that.
Hmm.
I mean, I can always tell, when going out to eat and see how people just inhale their food. I'm like, oh, they're not going to have a very, very good bowel movement later.
I hope you don't tell them that at the table.
Tell them that. But I think the more you chew it, the more you're going to have increased surface area on your food to get maximal nutrients out of it. And it's just going to make for better digestion. So you just chew it until it's a liquid. I tell patients chew it 31 times because the number sticks in their head and they obsess about the number. And I like that because then they remember to do it. And, don't drink a lot of liquids with your meals. You want to drink it in between your meals. Otherwise, you dilute your stomach acid. So that's first, it's called food hygiene. And then, also too, I see this all the time, Abel, is that even if you haven't traveled, there's so many things growing in people's guts,
Yeah.
bacteria, parasites, candida, see it all the time. And very rarely do I actually see a normal stool test. So if you have
Really?
any kind of symptoms, I recommend to get tested, get a stool test, see what's happening in there.
Hmm.
If there's any issues with hormonal problems, adrenal fatigue, insomnia is really big because parasites tend to be awake at night.
Hmm.
And so if you can't sleep, get a stool test and see what's going on in there.
Yeah. And what about the probiotics that have been all over the commercials these days?
Yeah, it's kind of a buzzword, It's like the Activa. People are like, oh, I want to get all my probiotics. And it's
Yeah.
hilarious. Usually they're jam-packed with sugar,
Right.
which grows candida. So yeah, no, probiotics are incredibly important. And of course, in someone's position like myself, who has been on antibiotics like candy, gut flora is always probably going to be an issue for me. And so I really believe that if you ever use antibiotics, even once, your gut flora might never be the same.
Hmm.
Have to just make sure to take care of that. And so gut flora, and that is also something that with a stool test we can see, okay, do you have any dysbiosis, which means an overgrowth of bad bacteria, not enough of the good bacteria. And your gut flora is the majority of your immune system. 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So if you have an issue with gut flora, you're going to get frequent infections. You're going to get frequent strep throat. That's why I got it all the time, right? Wiping out the good guys and just getting these infections over and over again.
So what can people do? What are some practical tips, even if they can't get a stool test right away? What can they do to improve the quality of their gut bacteria?
Well, for one, avoid sugar because
Yeah.
sugar will throw off that whole ecosystem. It'll make the candida grow. And have foods that help to feed the good bacteria. Those are called prebiotics. Because you have bacteria in your gut and they like to have certain foods to stay alive. So once you have them, it doesn't mean that they're going to stay alive. They could just die off because you just, keep feeding the bad guys and they just get overpopulated. So things like garlic and ginger and onions, that's like their favorite food. Their two most favorite foods, however, would be Jerusalem artichoke, right? But and chicory root. So if you can eat those on kind of a regular basis, they just go crazy over that. And also fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi. I don't do a lot of those foods because I don't really like the taste of them. So I kind of just do a lot more probiotics. But if you have those on a regular basis, just, your gut flora will thank you.
Yeah. And what about Detox, you have a quote that I loved on your website that says, if you live on planet Earth, you're likely carrying toxins that increase your risk for disease. And it's pretty much as simple as that, and I totally agree. So why don't you talk a little bit about how people should be more concerned with this issue living in the world that we live in today?
Yeah, it's really true, Abel, and it's a bummer because it doesn't matter how good you are about, having clean products in your home or using clean, lotions and face wash and, using a shower filter in your shower, a water filter. I mean, even just walking outside, doesn't matter where you live, you're going to be exposed to toxins in the air. And even like receipts, when you go to the gas station, you pump up your gas, and even the receipt that you get has BPA in it, which is a toxin known to cause cancer.
Yeah.
Just the plastics. I mean, it's all over the place. You cannot avoid it. So I recommend that patients do a detox at least once a year, but certainly if you could do it every 6 months, that would be a great idea. And, we're just bombarded with it. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you live on the North Pole and you're a polar bear. I mean, polar bears have toxins in their fat, the studies show. And they're nowhere near a gas station. They're nowhere near, any like, coal mining or, they're not spraying on hairspray and putting all these crazy toxins on them, but they still have it in their body. So yeah, it's a different world we live in now, but not trying to make people feel just like it's doom and, it's no hope, but really, and you got to take care of yourself. And so, yeah, I every single patient, I put them through a detox. You got to press that reset button.
Yeah. So what does that look like practically?
Yeah. So the detox looks like it's 3 weeks of the paleo diet. So it removes grains, it removes dairy. It also removes sugar and beans. So it's basically healthy meat, nuts, seeds, and fruits and vegetables. Now, if there's thinking they might be sensitive to nuts, which some people are, we will remove nuts for that particular program for them as well. And then also if there's any autoimmune disease, we'll take out the nightshades.
Right.
Tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, all of that. And then that's the diet, which is huge. That's 90% of it is the diet. And then doing, doctor prescribed supplements that help to really flesh out toxins in their emunctories, which is the word of the day, Abel. Your routes of elimination. So those include your liver, your kidneys, your skin, and your lymphatic system. And a lot of different detoxes, they're always like, oh, this is a liver flush, or this is a colon, flush. Well, they're only looking at one particular route of elimination. And to have a really successful detox, you want to support all of them because certain toxins come through the skin or certain toxins come through the stool. And so you want to support that. And that's what this particular detox does. So we do a protein powder that supports phase 1 and phase 2 pathways in the liver. And we can go more into that if you like, or we can just say phase 1 or phase 2 detoxes of the liver. Then homeopathic remedies that support kidneys, liver, and lymphatic drainage. Also a greens powder. It's a very, very nutritious powder of just mega nutrients from the greens. High dose fish oil, and also probiotics as well. So we have them do that, for the 3 weeks. And then I do a symptom survey before and after, and it's amazing the difference that people feel just from doing this.
Wow.
And of course, through the different, products in their homes. And we do a detox in the home too, right? And you can't just detox your body and then go back to your toxic house.
Right. So what does that look like?
So it's asking them, what are the different products you use? Look on the back of them and check out the labels. And I have them go to the website from the Environmental Working Group and look at all the different products that they use. And if they are typing in whatever products they do and it's a high rating on there, I mean, I'd like to see ideally below 5, but if it can be below 3, that would be great because that's very low on the toxin scale.
Yeah.
And anything above that, just toss it. You don't want to be doing that. And the biggest one too is the shower filter. People are so concerned about doing filtered water that they're drinking. They don't realize that if they're using a shower that has, chlorine and fluoride in the water, then they're going to be, breathing that into their lungs and it goes right into the bloodstream. So got to get a really great shower filter.
Freaking out now. What's the best way to do that? So there are the shower filters. There are the ones that go in before all of your systems, right? They're really expensive ones. And then there are the ones you can get for the tap of the house. What do you recommend in that case?
I've used a few different ones. Multi-Pure is a pretty good one, and there's one called Aquasana, I believe is another one. And then David Getoff, who's a traditional naturopath down here in Southern California, he recommended one that removes fluoride. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look that up, but that actually removes fluoride from your shower and also your water system. I'm not sure if Aquasana does. I believe they do, but don't quote me on it.
Yeah. Okay. And then another, I know you're pressed on time, so I feel like I'm bouncing all over, but one thing that a lot of my readers and listeners are concerned with these days is the thyroid. And I know that's one of the things that you focus on and related to fertility and gluten and all sorts of things. So why is it such a big issue today, and what can people do about it?
Yeah, the thyroid is kind of like the canary in the coal mine. It sort of takes it takes a really big hit from anything you're doing in your diet. If you're exposed to toxins, stress, I mean, the thyroid just really, it's so fragile.
Yeah.
So I think that's why there's so much thyroid dysfunction now. And also, well, first off, when you go to your doctor and get your thyroid checked, usually they test TSH and they test T4. TSH is the little signal from your brain telling your thyroid to work. So it's thyroid stimulating hormone. So it's saying, hey, I'm stimulating you. I want you to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the thyroid produces T4, which is thyroid hormone. And then T4 is converted into T3, which is the active form of thyroid. Now, most doctors test TSH and T4, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the active form of thyroid is T3. So that's just, first off, if you're getting your thyroid checked, you want to make sure you're working with the doctor who's going to do a full comprehensive panel and see what's really going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
And thyroid antibodies can look to see, do you have an autoimmune issue with your thyroid? Is your body actually attacking your own thyroid? And 80% of the time, if you have low thyroid function, that is the case. That is what's happening.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that high.
Very high. And the reason why doctors don't test for it is because it doesn't change their treatment. If antibodies positive or not, doesn't really matter. Just if you have TSH that's off, that's what they're going to go by. So, but it happens all the time where people have a normal TSH and then their T3, which is never tested, is low.
Mm-hmm.
Or all of those markers are normal, but then their antibodies are positive. So we know that their body's attacking their own thyroid. And when that happens, they can get low thyroid symptoms, or when the destruction of the thyroid is happening, that makes the destruction happen, and then there's more release of thyroid hormone that spills out, and so that can look like high thyroid symptoms.
Yeah.
So you're just like, I don't know what's going on. I felt great for a little while, and then I felt really bad again, and it's not a thyroid issue. It's an immune system issue. So got to really get to kind of the root cause. It's like, okay, the root cause is not thyroid, it's the immune system. So that's the first off about thyroid. And then, like I said, going back to the gut, I really believe that the root cause of thyroid issues oftentimes is gut. Got to really deal with what's going on in the gut, heal that leaky gut, because we know that when that becomes an issue and that becomes broken down, it creates all kinds of inflammation. You're more at risk for autoimmune diseases, which Hashimoto's would be an autoimmune disease, which
Right.
I was just talking about. So, got to get back to that root cause. And of course, from a detox standpoint, got to do a detox with any thyroid issues too. And especially with that is mercury.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something I've just started asking all my patients. I can't believe I haven't started until recently, is asking them, how many amalgams do you have? How many fillings do you have in your mouth? Because if they have a thyroid issue and they have mercury amalgams in their mouth, that could be one of the biggest reasons why they have thyroid problems.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, it's
tragic, really.
Tragic. It is tragic. So, I check for that now. And if you do have silver fillings, got to go see an environmentally savvy dentist who can remove those. And so much improves after that, because that's the root cause, right?
Yeah. And when you say silver, that's actually like almost, what is it, half mercury? Is that right?
Good job.
Yeah. I read sometimes. So let's talk about you personally, though. Before the call, we were talking about after we met at AHS, you've been fine-tuning your diet and practicing what you preach. So how did you get off, and how did you get back on?
Yeah, I was finding myself really not practicing what I would preach. I would have patients do these really nicely designed treatment plans, and then I would just go home. I wouldn't eat dinner. I'd get up in the morning. I would be rushing to work, and it's like, hello, I got to look at myself and really take care of myself before I can take care of other people. And so AHS really reminded me of that, especially the importance of organ meats. And God, they're like so incredibly nutritious. I mean, when Denise Minger got up there and was speaking about the nutrient density of organs versus the muscle, which is typically what most of us eat, right?
Hmm.
Different. So yeah, that was really a great reminder for me. And the same treatment that I put patients through, I'm doing for myself now. I went
Nice.
through my labs tested. I tested for my own nutrient deficiencies, which I had some of my own, and I wrote out a health plan for myself. It was so funny. The health plan says, "Health plan, Dr. Lauren Noel," and it said name, Dr. Lauren Noel. So dorky, but I've been sticking with it. And after a week, I feel so much better. And it's just great because patients can sense that, they want their doctor to be healthy and they want someone who they can see as an example for health. So I had to check myself.
Yeah, I've been to some pretty unhealthy doctors in the past who've given me some pretty bad advice.
I used to work at a medical center and half the doctors would smoke.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
But
can you help explain that? Because I've talked to a few a few of my friends who were in med school and they were just smoking like chimneys while they were doing it. What is that?
it's like, I don't know, Abel. It's like, is it the whole wounded healer thing? It's like, their energy goes out to patients and it's not so much about caring for themselves. To me, it's a mental emotional thing. And also too, they're so incredibly stressed and they're not taking care of their stress levels and they're just coping. They are just focusing on surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very ironic situation for everyone, really.
Well, residents, I mean, they're so incredibly sleep deprived.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, it's crazy. We know that sleep deprivation, that shift working, so if you're working throughout the night, graveyard shift, we know that that's a human carcinogen. The
Yeah.
World Health Organization calls that a human carcinogen. So you're actually taking years off of your life doing that, and yet you're there to help people get healthier. It's like, okay, something doesn't really line up.
It's pretty bizarre. And so one of the things you do is combine Eastern and Western practices. So can you talk about Eastern and some of the pros of that approach?
Yeah, I mean, really, I think in our medical system, we're always focusing on research and is this double placebo blind controlled double crossover study? And it's like, you don't have to have studies to support every single thing. I mean, if something's been done for thousands of years, isn't that enough evidence to show that it works? I mean, what about having things passed down through generations?
Hmm.
A lot of things I do is backed by science, for sure. I love research studies. I love looking at medical journals and seeing, their conclusions and seeing how they put the studies together and all of that. But some of what I do is based on what's been done for, thousands of years in Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, and I trust that. So, the beauty is that it's a slower way of doing medicine. It takes into account mind, body, soul. Homeopathy, for example. Let's say I come in with the sore throat, you come in with the sore throat.
Hmm.
We're going to do different remedies based on other things about us. So, what's the quality of the sore throat? What makes it better? What makes it worse? What are some of the mental, emotional things that come along with it? Am I really angry and you're really, shy, or am I feeling one way or the other? I mean, it takes into account all of those, and then the remedies are different based on those different characteristics.
Right.
So anyone who is interested in that, check out the show. I did it last night with Dana Ullman, interviewed him on homeopathy, and it was great. Really, really great, explanation of homeopathic medicine. But yeah, I think that the greatest thing about using Eastern medicine is it takes into account the whole person, which I love.
Yeah, and especially that the connection with the mind and body. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because my background, I studied actually psychology and brain science as an undergrad. And so I know that you kind of got into this in a similar fashion. And so you're a perfect person to talk about the placebo effect with, because it's something that is widely known and it's extraordinarily powerful, but not really talked about that much. So, I mean, clearly the mind has a lot of power over healing the body. When you're taking sugar pills and getting, like a 30% improvement in all sorts of different biomarkers of health. So can you explain that a little bit? How does that work?
Well, we have a similar interest. What got me into naturopathic medicine in the first place was using food as medicine, number one. But my degree was in psychology, specifically health psychology. So I loved learning about how the mind affects the body, and specifically how nutrition can affect the mind and how that affects the body.
Right.
So my favorite course in my undergrad was physiological psychology. So I think we share that.
Cool.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, the mind is so incredibly powerful. If you really believe that what you're doing health-wise is going to help you, it's going to increase the efficacy of that so much more. I mean, the placebo effect, yes, it does work. Do I think that's how homeopathy works? No. I mean, I think
Right.
homeopathy some people say it's because of placebo. I disagree with that because it works on dogs and it works on kids. So you kind of, that sort of takes that theory out. But
Right.
the power of the mind is so incredibly strong. So yeah, I mean, I think that, especially when patients are coming through my door, if they have confidence and really knowing that this is going to work, if they trust me as their doctor, the therapeutic outcomes are so much greater than them coming in here and being skeptical the whole time and doubting everything I say. And maybe I'll prescribe the same treatment for them and it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, but there's something to be said for when you take a pill or when you do some sort of intervention, maybe it's exercise or a change in lifestyle or something at home, if you understand it and believe in it, I've got to think that helps people more.
Absolutely, completely. Yeah, I fully agree with you. If I have a patient who really believes in what we're doing, they're going to get better.
Yeah.
For
And you mentioned pets, and I heard your show. Actually, the first show that I heard of yours was with, I can't remember her name, but she was an expert in kind of the species appropriate diet for pets. Yeah. What was her name?
Timothy Schultz. Her name is spelled crazy, but it's,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was a fantastic show. And one of the things, that's been around for a long time, a species appropriate diet for animals, whereas it doesn't seem like it's been around as long, at least in the general population, right? In their mind, for humans. And now the paleo diet is catching on, all this. But why do you think it's so slow to catch on? And all these people are just like, oh yeah, of course my dog should eat like a dog, but they skip over the part where humans should eat like humans. Well,
there's a lot of greed and a lot of there's a lot that happens that makes the food guide pyramid, and there's not as much of that going on, I think, in the dog world. Maybe there is, I don't know. But yeah. I mean, there's dog food that has grains and sugar even added to it. It's like, so
yeah, and worse.
Companies definitely try to profit on the animals, but I think that we tend to see dogs as carnivores, and so we naturally feed them that, except the crazy person every now and then that makes their dogs or cats vegetarian, which God bless them. But we've just been given incorrect nutrition information, and people are really confused now with what they should be eating. And I do a lot of work to have to just kind of unlearn that for people or rewire their brain. And I just tell them, just forget everything you've ever been taught. Let's just kind of start from scratch here, and I'll explain why this is the best diet for you. But yeah, I mean, it's too bad because people have been given really bad information for a long time.
Yeah. And so what about you have several dogs, is that right?
I have one dog.
You have just one, okay.
Yeah, I'm a dog lover. We have patients bring their dogs.
Oh, here. Nice. So I imagine you're probably not a huge fan of dry food.
No, I feed my dog a raw food diet. Yeah, she does really well with that. And but it's been an issue. Like I've done a lot of work trying to figure out what's the best diet for her because she's so incredibly picky. But yeah. Oh, and my mom, she'll just leave food all day for the dog. She'll leave them out all day. And like when I have Dinah, my dog's name is Dinah, and she's the most amazing thing in the world. I'll take her out to Colorado, and sometimes I'll leave her for like a month so she can hang with her grandparents. She loves that because their place is awesome. Yeah. And I'll pick her up, and she'll when I come back to get her, she'll be so fat. Oh. So my mom will eat the food all day long, and she'll just graze. And that's just not natural. And they're not designed to eat that way.
Right. Yeah, I have a picky dog myself.
Do you? What do you feed your dog?
I feed my dog mostly raw. It's difficult though. It really is a challenge, especially when you're on the road. Dog food is stinky and bloody and slimy and all of that. So it is a challenge, but I do the best I can.
Yeah. How big is your dog?
She's 65 pounds now.
What? Shoot. My dog's 14 pounds, and it's expensive enough to feed her raw. I couldn't imagine if she was that big.
Yep. So it's extra incentive to go straight to the person raising the meat and getting all those weird offcuts and raw meaty bones and that sort of thing. And she loves it. She's super picky. She can definitely tell. I've tried to, people are going to beat me up for this, but I've tried to give her conventional meats just occasionally, and she knows immediately and won't touch them.
That is so funny. Yeah, my dog won't even drink day-old water. She's like, I'm not drinking that. You better fill that up with some fresh stuff. Yeah.
Now, we're getting short on time, but I did want to cover this quickly before you go. Just what do you recommend to folks for an exercise or a fitness regimen?
I really love interval training, high intensity interval training. I have patients do that, at least twice a week. I love weightlifting. I love CrossFit. I want to get into it more myself. Yoga, I recommend that too. Rarely do I tell a patient I want you to do cardio every day, or that usually most doctors say exercise five times a week for 30 minutes. You know, cardio. I don't adhere to that at all. So I
Good.
would say more shorter workouts, really, really intense, go all out. And then when you're on your off day, just have an active rest day. And, I definitely recommend a lot of walking. We know
Mhm.
that walking really can be very effective for treating depression, reducing stress levels. So walk all the time, park your car far away from wherever, shopping place you're going and just walk
Mhm.
as much as you can. And then when you do work out, really go all out.
Or get a dog.
Or get a dog. Exactly. Well, I don't really walk with her. I just throw the ball and then she does all the work.
Oh, nice. Cool. Well, before we go, what are you working on right now, or what do you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
Yeah, I got some really cool projects. I'm working on a book right now. Got
Right on.
some online awesome marketing things coming out. It's gonna be great. I have all stuff in the mix, but I can't really share it yet because it's not ready to come out. But definitely busy on my end. But most of what I do, I'm seeing patients. So I see
Yeah.
patients locally here in San Diego. I work at Bloom Natural Health. And the website's bloomnaturalhealth.com. You can also go to my website, drlaurennoel.com. And I also work with patients all over the country because I have my radio show. People hear me from all over. I'd say probably half my patients are out of state. So I
Oh,
can work
cool.
with you over the phone, over Skype, and just do a lot of the same lab testing and just figure out what's going on with you and really support you in getting well. So that's happening. And yeah, I think that's probably what's keeping me busy right now.
Awesome.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Cheers. If you'd like to hear more from Dr. Lauren Noel, you can check out her website at drlaurennoel.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening and all of your support. And if you're interested in getting some online coaching one-to-one with me, remember to hop on over to leanbodycommunity.com or check out the show notes and you can get 30 days of coaching for just $1. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a killer week. Cheers.